So, those were two nice questions. For those of you who know me, I like to get to the real questions so we can walk out knowing something to think about to determine how we can best blaze our own trail. So my next question is, given that each of you are pioneers, really have blazed your trail because others have not done what you have done before you, how did you and how do you deal with what is still present as the glass ceiling, and in Asian countries they call it the bamboo ceiling? How have you dealt with that sexism in the workplace and in the community? And if you would, give us an example of something, whether it was related to you personally or in general something that you observed. Anyone that would like to start?
I'll share. As I have, especially being the youngest on this panel, I don't know that I have had, I'm certain I haven't had the experience that some of you ladies likely have had in terms of overt blocking. But being in both a political setting as well as a policy setting, it certainly exists. It's typically a world and career path that is dominated by males, especially on Capitol Hill, where it can be pretty cutthroat just in general, but definitely if you were female, it can be even more challenging. But what's interesting here in particular is that frequently I and probably you will find yourselves as the only woman in the room. And while there isn't a proactive effort to keep out your voice, I have had experiences in which my opinion didn't seem as valued or listened to, and certainly that experience of the next guy says what you just said. That is probably one of the most irritating things that have happened, but for the last year you probably have had that experience. But what I have found is that whether in that particular circumstance, but just in general, that I can't carry those things with me, that I can't make that my reality, in terms of I could go to those meetings and feel I'm just not going to talk because they're not listening, or be frustrated about the fact they're not being heard. I can make that choice, or I can make the choice to continue to speak and to continue to make my point. But it meant that I had to always do my homework in terms of knowing what I was talking about, that I had to be willing to say the thing that the room wasn't being said in the room, and then allow for the quiet to persist until somebody actually was willing to address the issue. And by being bold and being unapologetic, and as well as not getting trapped in this circumstance of not feeling that I was being valued enough, that has consistently allowed for me to push forward. Every circumstance you're in can overwhelm you, and it can take you over, you can take it over. And ultimately, I have always chosen to take the circumstance over myself. And that has been the tremendous benefit for me in DC, and it has been tremendous here.
Who else would like?
I think that adversity is ever present in our careers, and it's about how we handle those moments. And so, I have made a conscious decision not to let the adversity, the negativity, the prejudice, the bias, you can lay down the list. I have not allowed that to be my defining moment. I let it define the situation, but I don't let it define me. And so have there been roadblocks? Yes. Do I get treated differently? Yes. Do I feel devalued sometimes? Yes. And sometimes I'm the most senior person in the room. Now, how does that happen? And then there's also this little voice that sometimes says, you know what, you're good, but you're not that good. And it's called self-doubt. And I think that, what has helped me to prevail is I just walk in the opposite direction of that negativity and really look for other ways and channels to get my point of view across, because every door is not closed, every ceiling does not have a glass top. There are breakthrough moments, and we've got to seize them. And so I have experienced glass ceilings. I find them rare, and I find them something that we can all overcome. And I think you need a partnership. I think, those of us in this room today and in our workplace, we've got a band together, and that has been very, very helpful for me. When I was the Senior Vice President of American Express, I had colleagues who were mothers, who were wives, and we just really had to speak, if you will, strength and empowerment into each other. And I just think we have a magical moment to empower ourselves and empower others, and to look for different avenues to get our points of view across and to make decisions that move not only ourselves, but move other women forward. Because I said I do what I do today, but my 9-year-old daughter, so that for her and her colleagues, there'll be a way forward. So I do believe that we've just got to find our way, find our niche, and never take no for an answer.
Thank you. I certainly did not know any of the answers they were going to give to the questions that I gave to them. However, that I asked of them rather. However, you said some things that leads right into a point I want to share, because you did bring it up, and that is women supporting other women. Because sometimes we get in our own way. We get in the way of other women because there's so few spots, and so we unfortunately sometimes do things that hold other women down. From the perspective of being in a meeting when you're not heard, and this is why it came to my mind when Denise was talking, one of the things that we can do as men and women is when a woman says something that doesn't get heard, and then 2 or 3 people later a man says essentially the same thing, what we can do in that meeting, whether you're a man or a woman, is to say, John, I'm so glad you agreed with what Michelle said a few minutes ago. Or something along those lines, so that it brings it back to the woman who said it originally. And if you do those things often enough, you'll begin to train the other people in the room on how to really listen to everyone and enable everyone to be included. It's a simple kind of thing, but we have to remember to do it rather than getting angry when we see those things happen, which is obviously what our panelists are saying is don't let that negativity stick.